What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Behind the Track. This is Yungin. So we're gonna hop in right here and take a look behind the drop here. Let's get a refresher. This is what it sounds like. So that's Yungin. I mean, there's a lot of different things going on in here to make it what it is. So we're gonna go from top to bottom like we always do and go ahead and solo out everything so you can hear everything individually, and then you'll be able to see how everything kind of comes together as one. So here we go. Here are the drums. In my streets, in my streets, in my streets. Bring the ride. So now we're going to check out the low end here. Here we go. Straight up C. Whoo, that C is so nice. Now we're going to check out the vocals here. I see these people in my street. Well, actually, this is an older version, so we can't really look at the vocals. I did the vocals in a different project that actually came to be the final product, which was "Don't Give a Fuck, Don't Give a Fuck." It's probably way down to the right in the project, but I actually brought that in differently. So let's check out the melodic section here. Whoo, so soulful. Now let's check out the synth section. Here we go. So it's actually fairly simple, but it's all these different elements kind of coming together, playing off of each other. Because even when you solo out the synth section with the drums, you can start to hear the sort of flow that comes together here, you know? So cool, so cool. So, you know, in the drum section, we can just kind of fly through this here. We've got, you know, MIDI and a drum. And a drum rack with all the sounds. Well, right here. Kick, snare, that, one of those. This is what kind of really makes the snares really just kind of smack in your face. Get a listen. We'll kind of solo that. You can really hear that. You hear that? So on the kick drum, I really kind of shortened out the kick drum. Sounds like this. And it's actually -1. There's a bunch of different sections in the song with these represented by these utilities where I needed the kick drum to be different volumes, and I just modulated that with utilities here. The EQ here, it's low cut it out at 31 hertz, so it's not going to play anything under 31 hertz. Gave it a little bump here around 43 hertz just to really give it that kind of oomph that the kick drum needed. And then glue compressor here with a makeup gain of 3 dB, and the threshold's at 0, so every time it kind of hits at 0, it's gonna, you know, give it a makeup gain of 3 dB. So it's just, and then soft clipping is on, so it really just kind of gives it that gnarl that we want. So without the glue compressor on, it's what the kick drum sounds like. With it on, it's just a little bit more in your face, just that little bit of extra grit that really kind of makes the difference. Everything else, you know, just simple EQing. Well, okay, that's moderate EQing on this snare here. Just to get it to really sit. I wanted to duck out some frequencies here to make room for some other frequencies in the mix. Wanted it to really kind of slice through in the 7,000 hertz area. Gave it a nice little boost in 330 just for some tonal stuff, so you could really kind of hear that smack through when everything is kind of playing in the mix. And then that sort of additive to that snare is this clap here. And it's really kind of, it's a delayed sort of like splash, you know? And it hits, if you can see here, in the MIDI, it hits a little bit before. You see, so it comes in, and so it accounts for that sort of splash clappiness that comes in. So the actual snare is kind of offbeat as well. And the whole thing about Yungin is the swing. You know, the swing in Yungin is really the number one factor to what makes the song so danceable and so sort of emotional, because it's a drunken swing. You know, the snares are offbeat, our hats are offbeat, everything is pretty much offbeat except for our kick drums, which are hitting on, you know, on the grid. But if you kind of look here, it really just comes through. And it's really nice. It's really, really nice. Then we've just got the rides here. So when this actually comes in, you can kind of hear this flow. This is just one layer. There's actually another layer of rides that kind of bring the whole thing together. But here's the first layer. So it's like boom, 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 boom. And then the next layer, solo that one, goes like this. Straight up. 4 to the floor. Now when you bring those two together, and you'll see, you know, one is panned 19 to the right and the other's panned 17 to the left. Everything is about creating space in your mix. You don't want things stacked on top of each other. It's going to get muddy and you're going to lose that emphasis that you want in your track, you know. So you pan things out. And same thing with my hi-hats in the song, you know. If we take this hi-hat, I'm pretty sure it's playing down the, no. This one's panned 20 to the right. The other hi-hat 30 to the right. This other one's down the center. And this other one here is 9 to the left. So there's like all these creative decisions that you're making to create space in your mix and placement in your mix. So that's the drum section. Now moving into our low end here in the bass section, just a straight up C note. I'm using Sublab to run my 808 and sub bass here for the most part before the wobbles come in. And in Sublab, I took out all the high frequency harmonics in that sub, because we've got all the synth layers and serum patches and sound design stuff that are taking up, you know, 100 from the 100 hertz all the way up to the rest of the frequency spectrum. And I didn't want that 808 to bring in those really muddy harmonics in there. So I kept the essential stuff, you know, right at about 100 hertz. So you get that belly of that C note, what we really want, and then you get a little bit, just the right amount of those, you know, lower mid-range harmonics, and, you know, sounds like this now. Now we bring this high pass off, sounds like this. You see that? Ugly. It got so ugly. And now that's a really nice sub, you know, if you've got something that you can reference that on and really hear the full girth of it. But just on your headphones, it just sounds like a giant fart, you know. So and when you kind of EQ this out here, it really starts to sound firm, you know, and it's really kind of low key now. Yeah. Then we've got our side chain here, the really, really steep side chain, negative 34 dB threshold. That's what it's ducking us out. And we're usually getting minus 14 dB in our gain reduction here. And then I got some Sub Doctor on here. This is a cool little plugin that is really cool for cleaning up low end. You know, it kind of gives it a nice little low pass, cleans up a lot of frequencies that a lot of engineers and producers can sort of, you know, overlook, you know, and it really cleans it up, and then you can kind of use the keyer knob, and I guess it low passes it even more, and yeah, it's really nice. Check it out. It's on Plugin Boutique. Move into here. This is on our that's just, you know, arcade. We did some arcade chops here. Had to really give it some EQ stuff here. Without the EQ, it sounds really mid-range focused, and it's kind of like it's under a sheet. So I wanted to lift that veil off of this vocal here and really give it a nice top shelf and breathe some life into it, you know. Next thing, we've got some thermal going on here. And on thermal, you know, we've used this, it's just a preset within thermal. This is a VST plugin from Output. I threw that on here and used this vocal calculator to really just kind of bring up some spiciness into this vocal here. So with it, sounds like this. Without it, sounds like this. It just like it's extremely subtle in this case, and the dry wet is only even at, you know, it's pretty low, you know. It's more dry than wet. So let's kind of open this up here. We've got our 3-piece screech combo here. One pan 35 to the right, one pan 35 to the left, one playing down the center. Here's one center, and then here's the right one, left one. Bring them all together. it's nice. It really fills up that frequency spectrum really nicely. I gave it a duck here on the group channel of the screeches here. Wanted to bring down some of those high frequencies so the screeches weren't like unbearable to listen to in the mix. You know, because screeches can get really sharp in that top end, and you really want to make sure you're controlling that, and that's what really makes a nice screech. And then I just took out a lot of this lower stuff that we didn't really need, and it's got some bass punching parallel to just nice subtle compression going on here to kind of keep the screeches in line and control the dynamics, and some side chain, and a really subtle side chain. It was about 5.6 dB because I really want the screeches to pop over the mix. So really subtle side chain compression can really do the trick, and sometimes no compression does the trick. I find a lot of times. Now these are really, they're already kind of moving on their own, like this. Now you see how that's looser? Once again, I brought in the sharing tool here to kind of tighten up that syncopation here of this sort of wobble, so to speak. Not like, you know, just the choppiness of the screech, and it sounds like this now. And I just tighten that amount, you see? So you just find that sweet spot in your mix, and you know, you play around with your offset, which is your swing once again, and you know, get it to swing right. And in my case, I was trying to get it to swing right with this main sort of synth here. This is what people are mostly hearing, and it doesn't sound very powerful in the grand scheme of things when it's by itself, see? Without this EQ, a lot of those muddy mid-range frequencies came back. So, you know, I just gave it this low cut here. It's not playing anything under 240 hertz, and then gave it a nice little high shelf to kind of take that veil off the sound. It's got an overdrive on it just to kind of spice it up. Without it, with it, really kind of brought the sound to life, you know. Then just some you know, placement volume wise. And this is just one of my sheet wavetables here, and with a basic shape ramp here, and Fing from B. You know, it's just Fing from B. I found the right tone, 38% here with a comb plus filter to really give it this digital sort of girth. Without this filter, it sounds like this. Then with it, that's what's really, you know, moving the sound. This is where the LFO is at. And then I've got my LFO curve here, just playing a nice, really tight wobble at, you know, eighth notes here. And then I, you know, put that LFO1 onto the cutoff here to really control the comb filter, and that's what's bringing out all these harmonics, which is making it sound like a freaking laser beam. Then moving into the sort of additive patch here is this sound right here. And this is sort of the foundational sound. This is because you always want to lay that bed, you know, because you have to remember we've got this 808 that's playing this straight C note here. So when you play these two things together, it creates our foundation for everything to kind of move on top of, you know. And this sound is even simpler than the other one, because it's just a straight up sustain, you know. If we kind of open it up here, it was just the same wavetable, basic shaped FM, same thing, you know, except I'm not modulating any of the cutoff in the comb filter, you know. I'm not modulating any. And then also it's got a two unison, so there's two copies of the same sound playing to create this sort of delayed sort of stereo width, you know, to kind of add some energy to the mix. And the other one I'm pretty sure is in mono. Yeah, there's only one copy of our other patch playing. So this is playing straight down the middle in the mix, and the other one is kind of hitting the sides. So when you play these two sounds together, you get this. You can see, listen, because the sustain is playing in the sides. You hear that in the left and right, and then you hear the laser beam right down the middle. Yep, so that's how we kind of got that distinction to go there. Now if we move into our wobbles, it's a two-patch combo. Sounds like this. Here's our first patch. And here's our second patch. And once again, you can realize one thing is playing our stereo width, and the other thing is taking up our sort of mono section here. So let's look at the first patch. This is, I mean, same sound design was pretty, it was very transparent throughout the entire mix and the whole sort of session for designing these sounds. it's pretty straightforward. I used the same sort of wavetable for every single sound. And, it's just modulating different things. Like here, this is like a pure wobble, so the LFO1 is actually affecting the levels here, which is how it's getting it to move. Instead of affecting the comb filter to kind of bring out some different harmonics, I just wanted to modulate the actual initial sound. So that level, LFO was on the level. And then, as far as effects, it's mostly just compressor, multi-band, and throwing the threshold back just to get some kind of nice volume out of the sound. And that's pretty much it. And then, a little bit of a different sort of LFO curve here. And that's pretty much it. That's Yungin.